Here's a letter guy that was well early, so. Wow.
These, yeah. We're right. Well, just about.
Oh, wow, today. Yeah. Yeah. Such a.
Yeah, there's no else.
You can sit in the front row if you like. Don't be scared.
It's still trigger for you. Rest,
Okay. I'll call the August 7th City Council meeting to order. All right.
Bobby Hanson,
Here.
John Hawkins,
Here.
Megan McFarland,
Here.
Matt McKinney,
Here.
Logan Welch.
Here. Call for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States. One nation. Item 1, petitions, communications and requests. This is a time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda. Except in case of emergency, the city council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask city staff to research the matter or have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Everything. I have a proclamation for National Rail Safety Week. It's coming up in September. Whereas Rail Safety Week is to be held across the US from September 18 to 24. Whereas 2,194 rail grade crossing collisions resulted in 803 personal injuries and were responsible for 274 fatalities in the United States during 2022. 1,208 pedestrian trespassing casualties have occurred in the United States, resulting in 658 pedestrians being killed and another 550 injured while trespassing on railroad property rights right away and during 2022. And whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railroad right-of-ways are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with highway railroad crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways, and obeying established traffic laws will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities and injuries caused by incidents involving trains and citizens. And whereas the International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Operation Lifesaver, the United States Department of Transportation, and all local, state, county, and railroad law enforcement officers, first responders, and railroad corporations commit to partnering together in an effort to educate the national level or aspects of railroad safety to enforce applicable laws in support of National Rail Week Safety Week. Sorry. Therefore, I, John Hawkins, Mayor, do attest my full support proclaiming September 18 to 24, 2023 National Rail Safety Week. And I encourage all citizens to recognise the importance of rail safety education. Okay. Item 2, minutes, claims, reports and licences. The following items have been deemed non-controversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, it will be considered on its normal sequence on the agenda. I have item A, minutes for July 14 and July 17. B is a resolution on payroll for period ending July 15 and paid on July 21. A resolution on payroll for period ending July 29 and paid on August 4th. D is a resolution on bills and approved fund list. E is a recommend approval for issuance of beer liquor licenses to the Iowa Department of Commerce for the following: amendment for additional outdoor service area for fundraiser for the Angel Tree program on August 26th for the American Tap 526 2nd Street parking lot off First Street behind American Tap. Renew a special Class C retail alcohol license for Leon's Pizza Incorporated at 643 2nd Street.
I move to approve collectively.
Second. All those in favour say aye. Item A, request from American Tap to close the 500 block First Street parking lot, not the overnight parking, for a fundraiser for the Angel Tree Program from Friday late afternoon, August 25th to Sunday, August 27th at 12 noon.
So this request came to you a little bit earlier. At that time, they hadn't determined if they were going to do it on Second Street or behind the tap in the parking lot. We've had some revisions in the timing so they can get set up and tear down. So that's what this revised request is for. Wendy's here along with a couple members of the committee. If you have any questions, we're working with the different city departments on things that they've asked for as far as barricades and tables and things like that. So
No questions. We're definitely not closing down the street though, right? We're just closing out part of the parking lot. That map's accurate. I was contacted by a member of the post office and they just read a blurb online. They thought maybe that included First Street. I guess they get some late night deliveries in, and the semis come out of the parking lot on First Street. So no, it sounds great. No issues at all. Just confirming that for them.
Yeah, the only part of anything that will shut down for as far as traffic wise goes, will actually only for the very short part of the night, we'll have the alleyway shut off. So that way nobody can come down the alleyway while we're going in and out. But as soon as we're done for the night, we'll open everything back up in the alleyway. So
Cool. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be an issue, but I just wanted to clarify it for them. I think they just said closing First Street. They took that part out and it's kind of stuck in their minds. No worries. And it sounds like it's gonna be a great event. It's gonna be pretty big. So
Yeah,
awesome.
it's a great idea. Thanks very much for doing it. Yeah,
Move to approve. Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You're good to go. B is a resolution accepting and executing easement with Rivers family, allowing the city to bore underground electric services to 529 Willow Street. Which one?
Frozen.
Want to bring it up? Yeah. It's all right. We know what it is.
We'll do it the old fashioned way.
Yeah.
You locked it all up. No kidding.
Yeah.
First the AC and now the computer. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Get to the map and resolution. So it's just easement to be able to extend the electric power out there. Shows it under. Yeah, East Second, Sketchy Park, and then this other parcel here. I think there was more to it, but I think that's it. And the easement, at least the easement's just not specific to electric. It does cover all the utilities, not limited to that, than the exact easement language.
So to explain to everybody watching at home, you're just requesting easement on these properties to bring utilities to a residential.
Correct.
It also gets rid of the overhead lines at Sketchley Park, so it just makes that safer for the electrical utility as well.
I was waiting for someone to talk on it, but I have no issues with it, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fine.
Move to approve.
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item C is a motion to set public hearing to amend the fiscal year 24 budget to August 21st at 6:05 PM. Jody.
So I'm just asking that we set a public hearing to do a budget amendment, rolling over a little over $2.8 million from funds that were budgeted in fiscal year 23, but due to either bidding issues or supply chain, we didn't get those fulfilled. A couple of them, things are on order, but we just don't have them yet. And of course, when we're accrual, we have to, it has to be when we receive it. So we would have to have the cash moved to fiscal year 24 for those situations. Have any questions?
No, I think it's self-explanatory what you're doing. So,
Move to approve.
thanks, Jody. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Item D is resolution accepting work and authorising payment of $43,972.77 to Woodruff Construction for concrete panel replacement along the Boone River Trail. Evening.
Good evening. So Woodruff Construction has finished up the Boone River Trail replacement project. It totaled at $43,972.77. There was one change order that the city manager approved. The reason for that was one of the panels that connected into it was really deteriorated. And that was a total of $2,187.70 on top of the original contracted amount, Woodruff, which was $41,785.07. And so the staff would just like you to approve that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
That was the last of those funds.
The CDBG funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Item E is a resolution authorising the street department supervisor to request proposals for the replacement of 2 storm sewer outflow pipes with riverbank stabilisation and authorising the city manager to proceed with the lowest responsible bidder in the amount not to exceed 50,000. Zach.
How we doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah, so have you seen the pictures?
Why did you move that down there?
What's that?
Why'd you move it down there?
Ah,
Long way from where it should
something to
be.
do, right? No, back in 2018 during the floods, the bulkhead came away from the bank. It's one of those things that we've been aware of, and it's slowly just gotten worse, and it's working its way down the bank line as waters rise and fall. So we're looking to go back to where the pipe is exposed there, go back to the nearest joint to replace it with new pipe, and then just it'll get bedded with riprap to regain the bank. Keep it from getting worse and possibly deteriorating the trail. So. Any questions?
Nope. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Item F, council memorandum motion providing direction to city staff on the splash pad project. So there's a few pieces to it, so.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This one does have a couple pieces and it is going to tie into the 2 following items. One of them is grant application. And then the other one is just seeking some direction on the splash pad project. Next slide. So this is just a brief timeline of how we started with the splash pad project. Back in 2022, the council did identify a splash pad as a top priority as part of their council goals. So then in December of last year, we did bring Snyder and Associates out here to make a presentation on splash pad options, went over pass-through systems, recirculating, and did discuss some of the different features and components that they entail, some of the amenities for the children and some of the accessibility features that you can have. So on February 6th, we did get an amendment with Snyder and Associates approved for the design and the construction management of the splash pad. So they've been working on that. It was also included in the CIP. So as part of the fiscal year 24 CIP, Planning and zoning did approve that in February, and then the council formally approved that in April of this year. Parks Board has approved the recommendation to proceed with materials acquisition in July, and then August 14th, we'll take this back to planning and zoning so they can formally approve the location. So at the time of the CIP, we did go over location with planning and zoning. This is just going to make that formal seal of approval. And the reason that this is coming before you prior to us going to P&Z is because there is a grant opportunity available that is due August 15th. So we're trying to work on that. Some of the questions I wanted you guys to keep in mind as I'm going through the information is, do you guys want us to continue moving forward with the splash pad project? What funding source would you like us to allocate for the installation? And then also, do you want us to issue the request for proposals for materials before or after we apply for the enhanced grant if we are given approval to apply? The reason that's an important question is because if we apply before we are awarded the grant, then we have spent money outside of the grant period and then it doesn't count towards the city's match and contribution. The other is, do we engage and kick off a community fundraising campaign? So although the Iowa Enhanced Grant doesn't require it, after speaking with the IEDA representative, she said that if we started a local fundraising campaign, that would make our application score higher. So we did set up a sub fund. We're just kind of waiting for direction before we proceed. And then also we wanted to make you aware of the estimate for the ongoing operations and then have you guys dedicate a source for that. So a splash pad committee was set up, and that does consist of local daycare representatives, Parks and Rec board representatives, council member representatives, and community members. So what the splash pad has done is they reviewed some splash pad feature options. They completed a survey, and then this was provided to Snyder and Associates. They took that information and put a request for proposals together. The RFP was reviewed by the splash pad committee, and it has been reviewed by the Parks and Rec board as well. And the location that's proposed for this project is East Point Park. Slide. It is proposed to be approximately 3,500 square feet. It will be a pass-through system, meaning that it will not require any chemicals. There won't be any water testing or monitoring. We don't require showers or bathrooms. It is going to be routed to sanitary sewer system, and the water will only flow when the activation button is pressed, and that would be pressed by the users. And we have jurisdiction over how long that water would run before it needs to be activated again. And then also the splash pad does have to be ADA accessible. So if you look here, we do have a path through to the shelter so that it is accessible for anybody with whatever age restrictions or disabilities, so they can access shade as part of using the splash pad. In addition, it will connect to the basketball courts and the playground. The additional parking, this is not something we're proposing to install as part of the splash pad right now, but we are requesting an alternate bid at the time that we bid the splash pad, so we have an idea of what it costs. And then at that point, the council can decide if we proceed with that feature or not. So some of the benefits of splash pads, they do enhance community life. They provide a gathering place for families. They foster community spirit, and they encourage that social interaction, and they create an environment for children to be curious. And it also provides a zero depth water feature. So anybody who doesn't know how to swim or maybe has accessibility restrictions, they can access this play feature. There's health and recreation benefits. So it does promote for people to get outdoors. The economic impact, currently we have people who do leave Hamilton County to go enjoy splash pad features. So there's currently no free amenity for splash pads in Hamilton County. This would be the first one at zero cost, zero depth water. It could create an attraction for the county and the community for people to come in and enjoy the splash pad. Promoting tourism, potentially local businesses would benefit as well. That tourism. It does also promote the inclusivity because it provides an amenity for anybody of whatever disabilities or accessibility restraints and ages as well. Financing the project, the estimate currently is at $450,000 with $50. We have been actively pursuing grants. Our parks director and myself have been working very diligently on pursuing these opportunities. Unfortunately, we did not receive the Walmart Foundation or the Prairie Meadows grant or the Parks Mini grant. But we are going to request authorization from you to pursue the Enhanced Iowa Community Attraction Tourism Grant. We did apply for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant. We won't find out about that one until the end of October. Another one that'll come up is the Enhanced Hamilton County Foundation Grant at the end of this year that we will also be pursuing if you guys would like to proceed with the project. We also recommend a local fundraising campaign via Enhanced Hamilton County Foundation. I did reach out to the county. Thank you to the supervisors. They did commit 40,000. We did provide them with a resolution because it does have to be formally adopted. And hopefully they'll be approving that tomorrow as part of their meeting. But that is part of the grant requirement, is that we have some county participation, and they have agreed to do that. Webster City, we've already committed the engineering, so that's already been formally approved by you guys to proceed. So that remaining balance of approximately shy of 370,000, we still need some direction on where to pull those dollars. Some of the funds that would be potential places to pull from would be hotel motel. The LMI fund, since this would be available to all users regardless of socioeconomic status, is a potential place to pull from as well. On an annual basis, our utilities do pay a fee in lieu of franchise fee to the general fund. That's approximately 900,000 per year. There are some remaining bond proceeds. We don't know exactly what that amount looks like yet because there's still some purchases that we need to make, but we're estimating it's going to be between 50 and 100,000. And those do have to be spent down. So that is a potential source to pull from. And then in addition, we do have the lost fund. There's about $4.1 million in that fund currently. We estimate that approximately $1 million comes in each year. So ongoing operational expenses, we did run an estimate, and this is based off of our current water and sewer rates. Based on an 80-day season at 5 million gallons of water per season, we are estimating that the cost would be somewhere between 65 and 70,000 per year. So we're also requesting that the council commit where those funds will come from on an annual basis. Two options: lost would be an option, and then the hotel motel tax does give the parks somewhere between 25 to 30,000 per year. But something to keep in mind about hotel motel, that it depends on how the hotels and the motels are doing each year. That would determine the percentage amount that we get. So going back to the questions, if you guys don't have any questions for me, you can move on to the discussion points for each of the items. Okay, so the first one would be if you guys would still like to continue to move forward with the splash pad.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
With Modi.
Started something.
The way it's on the agenda, we need a motion providing direction on all these bullet points that you're going, so
To continue moving
we'll
forward.
continue to discuss, and then we'll combine all of those into one motion that council will approve, or
So we're voting on each one of these bullets. Each one of these bullets is a resolution.
it's not a resolution, it's
No,
just a motion.
I think you should discuss it, and at the end, we'll.
Consensus?
Yeah, get it.
Okay, let's say, all right, we don't need.
I think we should, for the next one, wait till after,
Yeah, I'd agree. We should be waiting.
because there's, I don't remember exactly the dollar amount.
So if you do it beforehand, we could pursue 47,000. If you do it after, we can pursue 75,000. And although if you look at the notice of intent to apply, I did list 1,000 because they state you can apply for a max of 35%. After talking to her, she said our application would be strongest if we pursue 16 to 18% because that's typically what they'll fund. So I went ahead with 18%.
And I'll back up too. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun. If there's some discussion amongst us or from the crowd, I don't want to move too fast here, but I am excited about this project. You know, and the numbers seem a little, high, but I think we've been preparing that for a while. I don't know if the community has, so they might be a little shocked by that, and curious how we're going to fund this, but I'm excited about this project. I don't want anyone to feel we're rushing through this decision. If there's any discussion, please, speak up.
Are you opening up the floor for discussion?
Yeah, I feel like we should, because I feel there is some opinions that could be voiced.
Always have lots of opinions.
Right.
We want to hear them. I'm speaking on behalf as a citizen of Webster City. Super. I've had people question me about the splash pad not recirculating any of the water. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it, process it through the water plant, turn it in, run it right down into the drain to the wastewater treatment plant. There's big concerns about that. First of all, we're building a $78 million wastewater treatment plant. People are having a lot of discussion about that, but now all of a sudden we're gonna dump another 5 million gallons in it annually, if not more. I mean, that's a guesstimation of how much we're gonna use. And as you say, that it's set up that the kids have got to push the button, kids are inventive. They'll figure out a way where they don't have to push the button. They'll figure out how to get that thing to go all the time. So that's one of the concerns that I've heard within the community, is that why are we building a splash pad and not recirculating the water?
Is that
It costs a lot
It
more
costs
to
a lot
do that.
more, yeah.
And you have to have more
I think it was-
specifications.
Well, at the same time, you're costing more by how much water you're gonna run down the drain.
BD, do you remember, it was like, took 25 years for
You to even
to
gain.
even
Yeah,
break
for you to
even
break
from
even.
putting a recirculating system in.
But in addition to that, we did contact other communities who have splash pads with both recirculating and pass through. And some of the concerns with the recirculating water is that you've got to monitor the water, the chemicals, everything's got to be very balanced, and it can create a potential for health hazards for the children that are using the splash pad.
Yeah.
So that was one of the recommendations from the people who currently have the recirculating system, is that they brought that to light, and that they also noted that, like you mentioned, the kids are very inventive, so they will redirect the water, and it doesn't refill the tank to the level it needs to be, so they have to be constantly refilling that tank.
Features on.
You can't. It will not let you.
Oh, they'll figure it out. Don't kid you.
Mm.
There's always a way around.
And we'll have a monitoring system that'll be accessible to staff, so if things like that are happening. getting-
And just some of the questions surrounding spending 450,000 project that we're not even sure if we're funding. Granted, we're trying to get everything, and I like the idea of having a splash pad. But at the same time, as I like having the idea, I also like to have the idea that we're not gonna waste a bunch of money by running it down the drain. That's one of my biggest concerns, and that's one of the biggest concerns that I've heard from people in the community, is that they're concerned that we're just gonna flush this down the drain. And we've got to build a new wastewater plant, and we're also talking about doing improvements to the water plant. Last number I heard was between 25 and 30 million for the water plant. So you're looking in the next couple of years, we're spending over $100 million for wastewater and water. And we're gonna be running 500,000 or 1 million gallons, 5 million, 10 million gallons down the drain that we've already retreated. That's one of the concerns that I've heard from people in the community. And I don't know the situation. You guys got the information. One of the problems I have is I think you've got some information that BD sent out. But it's very limited to the rest of the people in the community. They don't know nothing about it. They don't know how you come to the conclusion that this is what you need to do. They don't know why you came to the conclusion that it was going to be run and flush. So there is concern, is it going to be monitored by somebody from the city? Is it going to be just left open that anybody can go down there anytime they want? And there's no supervision, no city staff there? Those are some of the questions that I've had asked.
No,
I have no idea.
No, they're valid questions, and they're, I'm glad someone's asking them, especially if there's question marks in people's minds about this. I can answer the first one, how we came to the conclusion of this. We needed it, or wanted to move forward a goal setting session. And this goal setting session was directed by a a specialist in that, you know, brought input from directors and community members, and then essentially it was down to the council to kind of iron out our goals moving forward. And to be honest, the splash pad has always been a huge suggestion to the council, like for an amenity or a parks for years. But I think it really took this makeup of the council, especially, you know, having Megan and Abby on it, to really push it forward, you know, as moms and their small children, to push this to the next step. So instead of just kind of hemming and hawing about a possibility of doing this, we had the land at East Twin. We want to establish that as kind of our go-to park anyway. And the request was there by several parents in the community that this amenity would be highly used and valued. So then we move forward with kind of what it would cost. And I guess we're at the stage now is how we're going to pay for it. We're still figuring that part out. But yeah, I think this amenity here would probably get the most mileage out of any of our other parks if moved forward as what I see on paper.
Well, since we've improved that park, it's probably the most utilized park in the city.
Yeah, I would push you and say the county, you know.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of money
Yeah.
there.
But at the same time, I mean, before you had those amenities, it wasn't being utilized, you guys talking about selling. And that went over like a lead balloon.
Right.
So. Question that, look, there again, the question that I've had people talk to me about, and because they don't want to come here and put their face in front of this council, I don't have a problem doing that. I'm not afraid. They're afraid. They don't want, they're afraid of the backlash. The questions that they asked me to represent them was, how are we going to pay for it? Why is it going to dump and flush? Who's going to supervise it during the day? I don't know what the hours are going to be. Nobody seems to know for sure. What's the season going to be? Is it going to be May 1st, September 30th? Or is it just during the season when the swimming pool's open? I mean, there's a whole lot of questions that people ask. I'm not saying I disagree with the idea of a splash pad, and I don't disagree with the idea. I've got 6 grandkids. I'd love to be able to take them to the splash pad.
No, I mean, I just had my son's 7th birthday party down there a few weekends ago, and I really wish that splash pad was there. I mean, they had plenty to do. Don't get me wrong. That park is amazing. You know, it's a great park. I ran into some people from out of town actually admiring our parks from the Fort Dodge area, you know, and it gave me a lot of pride, you know. It took a lot for me to go, you know what, I'm a city councilman, you know. I took a lot not to say that. I just kind of sat back and listened to kind of what they had to say, but it gave me a lot of pride in the town and our parks and the rec department especially, and our really direction and our focus on parks lately. Some of those questions you answered, maybe some members of the splash pad committee could help answer them if we even have those figured out yet, because some of those might be up to Parks and Rec to determine hours, and I don't think we're staffing it.
Sandy waters there, does it?
But I don't know about like the season. Because, you know, freezing.
The season's, well, it's written. Was it?
Through August.
Yeah, same as the pool.
It's a 3-month. It's a 3-month season.
Well, I guess
If you do research on, which I did a lot of research on this recirculation and not to recirculate. And if you read about it all around the country, it seems like the best bet is not to recycle. Because by recycling, you end up with brain eating diseases and all this sort of stuff. It's because they've got other places in the country where they've got people suing the city for getting diseases from a recycled system because they can't guarantee that it keeps clean.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but one of the questions that a person said to me yesterday was, before the city does anything there, right now we got to have the money to do it before we do it.
Mhm.
Now we're doing something about the money. And
Well, we're not doing it yet without the money.
Well, but that's the assumption that we're going to do it, that we're moving forward to do it. And hoping that we keep our fingers crossed, that we get the grants and stuff. But that's just to put it in. That doesn't cover the
And it
cost.
doesn't cover the 50, 60. That's exactly.
Maintenance, upkeep, and all those types of things. People are asking, why is that we're doing this? Other things that want to be done, we can't do it because we gotta know how much money we're gonna make off. Or what it's gonna cost us.
Say, we're not gonna make any money.
We're not gonna make any money.
Like, we're just running out.
Exactly.
Uh,
The city is going to spend to have this.
Shoot, a couple things of that. One, it's. Thank you for representing some people that may be intimidated to come down here.
Yeah.
One, but two, that bothers me because, man, we're pretty harmless, you know, what I mean, we're pretty.
And I know that,
So
but
I please encourage people to come down, but thank you for representing them because I get it too.
speed camp.
I love discussion like this. It makes my day. I hate just. Running through a agenda, not really having any. Conversation, so, but please encourage them to come down, but thank you for representing them. But when it comes to like moving forward and like paying for this, we're obviously doing a lot of different things to find sources. And now we're gonna make some tough decisions if those sources don't come through. Okay, what do we kind of rob Peter to pay Paul with, because if we take funds out of any of these options, it's gonna mean we can't do other things with it, right? So something is gonna have to be bartered. So that's where we got to figure out, but the ongoing cost of it, again, I think this is going to be the most utilized park in the county. Most utilized free park in the county that isn't like a natural resource like Dolliver or something like that. I even adjacent counties. So I think it's going to be our central park, if you will, East Twin. That's what it's becoming. So the funding is easier for me to find. Then, some other decisions we have to make. Easier for me to find than other things we're looking at. So things like this we know will benefit our health and enhance just the quality of life for our community. That's an easy one for us to do. It's the hard ones are like, okay, what do we fix first, or what do we give another 5 years to? Those type of decisions might have to be made, but I feel that it's such a positive impact on our parks and rec and our community as a whole. This is something that we should make way for, and we should find a way for. And we're doing everything we can out of grants first, not crossing our fingers, hoping we can pay for it. We're finding grants to lessen the impact on other things. I feel we're going to do this one way, shape, or form, some way, somehow. And if we can get grant money, great. That's the mindset I have. It's not hope we can get the money, but we're still, bulldozing ahead. It's let's pay for this as smart as we can.
Well, I guess I'd like to give feedback, and I'd like to see how we're gonna pay for it before, we're moving forward, but not saying my vote is yes if we come up with zero grant funding. So I want that to be clear. Yes, I want to move forward, and yes, just in a community over the weekend that is looking to do this, that is looking to do local fundraising with businesses, maybe adopt a water feature type of a thing. So I'd like to see where we're going to be. If we come down at the end of the day and we've not been able to raise any funds, then my vote might not be to move forward, especially with the $70,000, a year in ongoing expenses. We're going to be spending a lot of money over the next, 5 years on just some of the things you mentioned, in addition to everything else. I think it'd be a great feature. I'm fully supportive of it, but we do have to figure out how to pay for it too. So I have faith that if we look at raising money, maybe we can pay for more than half of it, and then it lessens the blow. I have a little bit of a hard time with 5 million gallons of wasted water. It's a resource that a lot of places don't have. But on the other hand, maybe it's a good idea to put together a comparison that we post on the website, in the newspapers, to show the difference in cost, risk of having a recirculating system. Maybe we need to do that as well, just so that we're educating the community on why that decision was made. But yeah, at the end of the day, I hate wasting 5 million gallons too.
Well, I think could be a way to do something with that water, and
Well, and that's possible, but at the same time,
but that, unfortunately, that costs money
go
too.
along with what Matt's saying, I think they're communicate to the public so they understand what's happening, because when I talk to individuals in the last couple of days about this, they are all telling me they don't know exactly what's going on, but they thought it was going to be a research system. They didn't think they were going to dump and flush. And I don't know where they're getting their information. I have no idea. From my point of view, they're not getting any information.
Well, this is the first time we've talked about
Who brought it?
what the system's going to be.
Yeah, hearing on, but there have been.
No.
But I mean.
No, this is the first time the council has been aware that what sort of system is going in.
But
So
not
tonight.
other, but. This isn't the first time there's been a discussion about a splash pad in this city.
No, but it is the first time. But it is,
Talking.
but it is the first time we've talked about how the water will
Yes.
be. Yeah, this is the very first we heard about it, because that decision wasn't made until, well, it's not even made yet, so.
To kind of underline that too, first of all, Matt, I didn't mean to speak for the council.
No,
I speak for my
I just
business.
wanted to
Thanks for
speak
weighing in. And I agree, if we can't come up with some sort of extra funding from businesses or something, that tells us they don't want it. You know, that tells us it's not as popular as we thought, but I really do feel there will be some money coming through from at least local, if not grants. To underline that point though, this is the first time we've had an open meeting, not a work session or not a consensus, just hey, move forward and get us some details on it. I believe in any fashion, right, in a public meeting. So that's the problem, right? Like people start making their assumptions and stuff. So I'm glad this is happening and this discussion's happening, because again, I hope people kind of take from this a lot of information that might have been assumed, or to be honest, I didn't know what direction we're going with the splash pad until I read the memorandum, like kind of the size, what it's gonna look like on the map. We left that up to that committee to kind of make us some suggestions to us. So the memo for this meeting educated me a lot on kind of what could fit in that space. So please, I don't want anyone at home feeling like they're left out of the loop. You know, a lot of this information is just coming in.
Well, what I was trying to allude to is that you guys may not have discussed this prior to this, but your other subcommittees have discussed it. They've had meetings on it. There's been reporting in the paper on it. There's been reporting or people talking from those subcommittees to their neighbors and friends, and you know how word gets around in Webster City. You know, so people do talk about this. They are hearing about it. And I didn't even know it was supposed to be on the agenda till I was told about it Friday.
Well, we didn't know it was on the agenda until Friday either.
Well,
That's when we got
I
the
said,
agenda.
well, come on, I've been in your clerk report. It's not like you don't know this stuff happens a week or two in advance.
No, we obviously don't. Did we know we were having this a week ago? I didn't. I mean, truly,
Well, you should have better communication.
No, Jerry,
we don't know what's in the packet until we get it on the Friday.
Okay.
That's the way it is. I mean, I have no reason to lie about it. It's absolutely sad.
I'm just saying.
I did actually got it earlier than we normally get.
On it before this meeting, or before you get your packet on Friday. It's 223 pages long.
Mhm.
And I see some of them that are over 500 pages.
Mhm.
You're telling me you're reading it all over the weekend?
Yeah.
What I think, again,
I read it all on
I
Friday.
think there's miscommunication. So what I think with the mayor's Leland is, we know things are in the works. We know that our committees are doing some work on things. We know it's probably coming down in our agenda. It's coming up. But yeah, I didn't know it was gonna be on today's meeting until I read the agenda. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They got some detail for us to digest. So that's cool. And I was excited, but yeah, it's not like we were hemming and hawing and stuff for like several backroom meetings and then bring.
No, I'm not saying you were doing that. Don't misunderstand.
But no, we knew it was coming. We just didn't know when.
And you know, they're fair questions, Jerry. It's not, it's fine. They're all fair questions.
Well, and I guess that's, I was on vacation this weekend up at Clear Lake camping, and I got a text from them. Hey, they're having this meeting on Monday about the splash pad. Nope, evidently they looked at the agenda when it came out on the website or something. I don't know where they even found it. But that's what I'm saying is that there's some confusion, because people have been talking about the splash pad for more than a couple months in the community.
Mhm.
There was some assumptions that it was going to be a research system instead of, just going straight to the drain.
Well, that's where I think some education, however, many avenues we can, newspaper, website, something with the utility bill that goes out, whatever, ideas just to let people know, why one was chosen over the other. And, and maybe that needs to come after we determine whether we've secured any additional funding. I don't know.
Yeah, oh, that's, you guys can decide there.
Well, the big thing is is number 4 is how we're going to pay for this thing year after year, because in the past, we've been threatened that we'd close the pool because we didn't have the funding to keep it open. That we were gonna, because we didn't have funding for other things out of the general fund, and now we're gonna put another $50,000-$60,000 onto that same general fund. So, you know, that's a big piece of this, what we're gonna look at it.
You know, maybe this would be a good time too. I know Parks and Rec directors here, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but any concerns or input on this? It may feel relevant at this point.
I mean, it's something that. It is concerning on how we're going to pay for the long-term operations of it. But I mean, that's my main concern is just where we're gonna get that funding. But I mean, I think it's a great project for the community.
I don't, for one, I didn't see any of the bullets say cut into Parks and Rec budget. So that's good, right? So we obviously know this has to come from somewhere else because the amenities we have now are valued and cherished in the community. We don't want to diminish anything to make this great. So
But it is part of their budget, isn't it?
it would be, but we
It would
would
be part of
somehow,
their budget. I mean,
we'd either expand their budget.
it is a park and rec thing, so it is part of their budget. Anyway, the three, is it number 2 we're at?
Number 2, I think you, after.
Yeah.
So we want to do after, and then is
So
everyone,
you're
did
voting
everyone,
for after.
did everyone agree with that one?
Yeah,
We should do it.
yeah.
Apply for the grant.
So they engage the kickoff community fundraising campaign to help support the project, and I think that we should.
Are we applying, we are applying for the CAT grant, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't consensus on that. That's
That's the
a
next
given.
item on the agenda actually is to authorize the
application.
application.
So
So
we are on the engaged kickoff committee funder. I mean, to Matt's point, if we don't have some type of community buy into this or some type of, either, business and industry kicks in or individual donations. I mean, what did we get roughly for the East Twin in individual or local donations? I mean, it was substantial,
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about it.
I mean,
It wasn't substantial, really, but
I mean, I'm not gonna scoff at that because
not over 250,000.
again,
But this could.
people may have gave $100 that they couldn't afford for that, so I don't want to scoff at that. I mean, but still that shows community buy-in. That shows people are willing to open up their checkbooks and back it up financially, so I think we definitely should engage in something like that. I mean, I don't expect to pay for it solely from that, but I think it's gonna bring that community buy-in into it.
Well, that's what she said. I mean, it gives us another tick on that. When we're going for grants from other people, so. So 3 is a yes. That's correct. So 4 is a dedication of fund source for long-term operations at splash pad. I mean, my first thought would be that you'd have to look for more funding now to allow the tax, because that's the only one that really isn't committed to lots of other things. Because to look at the loss fund is everybody's street wants, that mainly goes for repairing road.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're lucky like me and you got a brand new road, then I guess you don't have to worry about it. But for everyone else in town, they're hurting. So I don't think that we should really dip into that.
The hotel motel could be directly tied to this amenity.
Well, it is a tourism thing you put up, so that's supposedly.
Explain to me the franchise fee, utilities in lieu of franchise fee.
Well, but that's directly affecting the general fund. So we
No,
just-
I know,
already
but
have-
what do you mean in lieu of franchise fee?
It's just the transfer from the utilities that goes from those utility funds to the general
The
fund.
franchise fee is paying the city to have the utility in the city.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I follow you.
We've done it forever.
You're no, I call it a different one. You tell me not to say, skim off the top, because it doesn't sound the best, but it's in lieu of franchise. Right, yeah, we get money, we pay ourselves through the utilities to have the utility service. I understand.
And using the LMI fund means that you couldn't do it for many years and you'd be broke.
And I think the intent of the LMI was more so on the capital.
Yeah.
Not necessarily ongoing operation.
But this is looking for the remaining 367,000. Right?
So that was the question,
that
I just
was-
realized we didn't put on there.
Yeah,
That
that-
initial funding is for the
Yeah.
installation and then some things for ongoing. Where we'll need some clarification from council.
so do you think that really we could, look into how you're gonna fund this thing long term when we're a bit further along on our fundraising?
So for the Enhance Iowa grant, we have to have the money raised and committed, at least 65% of it. So if the city, that's why the resolution is pretty generic. It just says the city dedicates the local dollars towards the project.
But
Because I don't have that exact amount at this time.
so this really isn't talking about how you're gonna fund it long term? Because that's the way it's written.
Yep, that's the first memo, because we wanted the direction for the long-term sustainability of the splash pad. But one of the items I did forget to put in there is how you're gonna fund it at the installation point.
How much funding you want up front to be able to go for your grants, you mean?
So, yep, but currently, without doing any fundraising right now and no grants, this is what the remaining balance would be that 367,000.
And where is that gonna come from? Is what,
Yep,
Well, that's why I thought we were fundraising, but how much of that are you wanting the city to put into that?
I don't know how much money we'll be able to fundraise, so that's a difficult decision to make.
When do you have to have this done by?
August 15th.
August 15th, so you gotta have the fundraising done by then also, or just?
We have to have the money committed, that 65% of the project total committed.
By August 15th.
Yep. And since this has been on the CIP and everything, I just
So if we were to
wanted
put this, if we were to put this off for a year, then we'd have more time to figure out where we can get
They
funding.
can, because they do the application quarterly, so if you guys wanted to put it off, that's another option.
Well, not put it off to this time next year, but at least give us more time to think about. Because, what are you wanting at 60, you're wanting us to commit 60% of that 367,000.
So originally, they usually do a quarterly application, and I was prepping to keep myself informed of their April date, but they said they ran out of funds. And they'd be opening it up later. And I recently found out they opened it up in August, so that's why this seems like it's rushed at this time.
65% of 450. 292,532.
And the remaining bond proceeds, I mean, you're saying that's, am I reading this? It's at least 50,000, but possibly up to 100?
Yep.
Okay, so I say we start there. That's. I mean, unless someone else had that earmarked for something, I mean, that'd be the easy start. And
so are you talking about,
just to get the thing built.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
because we're looking for the 65% committal, right?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, again,
So we've got to come up.
Anyone else chime in?
60% of the 450,000.
now,
We
the other,
already have,
Aren't we
well,
already 42 or 82?
So that,
Yeah.
2,000 into it right
that portion will not count towards the city's budget because we
Already
spent
spent.
it already.
So-
Well, a majority of
The
it,
engineer.
we've got about 10,000 that we're gonna spend, but
So the 42,000 doesn't count towards the,
towards the city's match because it's not.
Whatever we paid out, we can't use.
so actually you have less than the 82,000.
You could say you say we've spent half of it, less than half.
Probably about 30,000, I'd say.
50,000, so 240.
But the 65% that's not just city money though, that's fundraising money. too.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
but we can't.
But you
can't
wanted to have a
before the
commitment
19th.
from us now
right,
for
right.
next week. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
And you guys can always, if you're choosing to postpone the materials bidding and we don't get the grant, that's coming back to you at that point as well to say, hey, do you authorize us to go out for bid for materials? You can at that point say no, if you already understand $75,000 was not awarded as part of the grant process, and this is going to cost additional dollars.
So we can make the commitment of the 60-some%, and then if there are no grant monies awarded, since we held off on materials, we could make the decision at that point to
Correct.
scrap.
Materials decision still has to come back to you. We still have to come in and seek authorization to proceed with materials purchase.
Okay, I just want to get this rolling here. I feel we're stuck on this, like where we're gonna pull from these funds. What do you guys feel about the bond proceeds? Like, that seems like a clean 50 to 100,000 right there to start with.
Yeah, but even if you said it's 100,000, you're still 140,000.
I know, I mean, just to start, because it's, unless we just take it all out of either utilities or loss, we gotta pull from a couple different buckets here, so. Because I definitely don't want to deplete the LMI fund, but, I mean, what do you guys think about that? Just as again, that's gets us closer.
What if we don't go to bid next week and we wait until you get some funds from committed from one of these other groups later in the year? And then we would have we might get closer to our 60% with those funds without us committing all of it from the city. Because once we commit all this money from the city, then everyone else will just, we don't need it. We won't keep looking for more.
I'm saying, but at the same time, if you don't do something with it, really want to do this, if you don't do something now, you're gonna be another year behind. Because when will the grants come out next year? About the same time as they are now?
Yep, and they're quarterly until the money runs out. So there'll be another round in November, but then you're waiting another 2 months before bidding, and then you've got your bid window. You get your best prices in the late fall, so.
And this would be bid to be constructed next summer or next spring or something.
And that we know of, there's at least within our drive, you have Huxley, you have Jewel building their aquatic center. There's other communities across the state that are looking at aquatic rec amenities that are probably thinking the same way we are of applying within the first round to try to get some money before the money's spent from the CAT grant.
Okay, I'm gonna ask it again. All right. So the remaining bond proceeds, so that'd be a good place to start.
Well, I don't think it matters. I mean, if you want to commit the money to them, then Daniel, he'll able to go and take it out of one of those funds. I mean, they're really asking us whether we want to commit to 60%. That's the question.
So I think we've already agreed to move forward. Maybe the thing we should commit to now is, do we want this built in 2024 or 2025? And if we want to build in 2024, we got to find $400,000. And I personally want to build 2024. If it makes more sense financially to build it 2025, 2026, fine. But we got a lot of momentum behind this. I don't want to let up. And I do feel that even if we do say, hey, okay, we got pockets of money here to pay for it, I think there's still donors or at least people advocating for this that will still come and donate or something in some way, shape, or form, no matter if we've had 100% committed. Because I really do feel this is an amenity a lot of people have been asking for, and it's an easy one to donate.
Well, if everybody that sent something to Save East Twin Park would put in $20 each, we would have raised a few 100,000, but we raised 40. So there's something to think about.
Who's gonna do the fundraising? Who's gonna do the fundraising?
I don't know. I'm not.
Well,
I already put all my money into it, so it's.
Well, I mean, it's just, I don't, as Parks and Rec doing it, as a subcommittee that came up with the splash pad idea. I mean. Let's gotta figure out who's gonna go out and do that, because you just can't assume. You can't put something in the paper and say, hey, we need money.
Well, I can ask my other four members of the council here if they would commit their pay from council for the next year towards the fund.
Easily.
Because that's where mine goes each week anyway.
I think a lot of us use that funding for donating back to the community anyway. That's a great idea, Mayor, because
Because that's a commitment from us to know that we're putting it towards it. So.
And that's fine, but what I'm saying is.
And that's a sale point for everyone else.
And I know there's people on this board that has been in fundraisers, they had to go out and knock on people's doors and ask for money. It's not easy.
Still are.
And I guess all I'm saying is, don't disagree with the project. I think it's a good idea. I like the idea, but I think you guys are gonna have to find out who's gonna do your fundraising for you. Because I think it could be very successful.
Yeah.
If you pick the right person.
Mhm.
Or people.
Well, it is a popular thing. I mean, there's no doubt. Don't you think that we just need to decide whether we want to commit 60%? I mean, that's all really, isn't it? Because I mean, the money, obviously, if we're going to start throwing around figures of what we're going to do. Yeah. What do you
Of those listed out there, loss is gonna be your most flexible. And you are bringing in close to $1 million each year that replenishes that. We'll have to adjust, to look at some of the long-term projects to see what, if any of those would have to be adjusted to the road projects. We also have road projects that have been pushed back because of planning and designing, and so that's your most flexible. We certainly can look at the bond proceeds to see what's remaining we can use there. That'd probably be your second option I would recommend. The third, I could probably LMI funds. I don't like using LMI funds. You can certainly look at using a portion of that just to kind of have a diversity of funds so that you're not drawing from a large pool. And then lastly, would be the hotel motel. The city has used hotel motel for other capital projects throughout the city. Mini pitch was the most recent one that went to the hotel motel board asking for additional funds to pay for that. Was also used for the playground out at Lions Park. So you already have, as between the hotel motel board and the council, you've already have that history of using that for major capital investments in the parks. So if you want to stick to just one of those funds, Lost is your biggest, most flexible source of funds that you can look at.
I would rather have a portfolio of a little bit from everybody, to back this myself, but. But if the mayor's asking for, if we want to commit 60% to this year. And if we are all comfortable with Daniel making those financial decisions within these funds. Relatively, I mean, you probably still have to come ask for approval for some, moving stuff around, of course.
Yeah, like Biddy said, you can certainly, if you're comfortable, want to make that designation of committing the 65%. So that it's included and move forward with the CAC grant next week. And if we don't get awarded, then at that point, next few months, you decide whether you wait till the following year or move forward with the full cost of the project. But you do have some time to think about that.
That's the route I'd prefer to go. I don't want to commit to anything, purchasing materials, and I'm okay with committing the money pending we secure other fundraising, or grant opportunities, but that gives us some wiggle room to say, no, we're not doing it if we can't come up with anything.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, trying to put together some public information, not knowing how we want to navigate this and move forward with it. So once we kind of have a clear idea what the council's direction on that, then we can work on those other aspects of it too.
Yeah. Well, I'm for committing the 65% so that we can get this thing rolling. But I would like to, with the source, how to continue operations of it, I think that we should probably dip into the hotel motel tax for at least 50% of that to find how to keep it running each year. Because I mean, that money's we didn't use all of it again this year anyway, so most years there's bits left over, so it is a tourism thing. So I think that's funds, at least we're not robbing money from the Park and Rec budget. It's the rest of it we can figure it out, but maybe we can see if we can sell the rest of it to Awesome Mowing for watering the trees downtown.
Buy anything now, they've been free.
Oh, no, we were gonna sell it to you, double the price, double. Well, it's pre-aerated. Has some extra, might have some extra fertilizer in it.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But so, sounds like you are for committing, I am as well.
I am.
Me too.
Okay, yeah, so do you want a resolution now to what?
Yep, so on the next item, that's the one where all requests.
We don't need anything.
So on these 4 items, the consensus is to continue moving forward, yes. Issue requests for proposals to purchase materials after the enhanced Iowa grant decision. Engage and kick off a community fundraising campaign to support the project, yes. And then the dedication of funding source for long-term operations of the splash pad would be started with the hotel motel tax at this point.
So, yeah, some of it, yeah.
Consensus?
And during your budget, during the budget process, in the future years, you can make that decision at that point whether to continue to fund it with whatever source of the funds you can dedicate at that point.
Done. Item G is a resolution authorizing the assistant city manager to apply for the Enhance Iowa Community Attraction and Tourism Grant and committing local funds. So we've just spent a long time talking about that.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item H, a resolution providing for notice of hearing on proposed plan specification for his former contract as to the cost for construction of the 2023 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project for September 5 at 6:05 PM. Zach's back.
I'm back. Any questions?
There are several pictures in the packet that kind of just shows the condition of some of the sanitary sewer, I'm assuming most of these were clay pipes from back in the day that have cracked and most of them are identified on a yearly basis through the video cammering of the sewer lines and the street department goes over hours and hours of just movies of our sanitary sewer system, identifying issues like this. These locations listed, Brandon had indicated are probably the more severe. It doesn't fully cover all the repairs that are needed throughout the entire system, but just the ones that are more severe, that the amount of funds that have been allocated would be able to cover, depending on bids.
And we're just setting that here.
Yeah,
I
right.
move to approve.
All those in favour, say aye. Thanks, Zach. Aye, resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and execute an agreement with Alexander Puts Engineering Incorporated for professional engineering services associated with the Rising substation.
Yeah, so this item before you is just a request so that the geotechnical work can be done for Riser substation so that our DGR, who's working on the design, understands what type of footings and the soil conditions in the area. So minimum cost will be $14,775. If they do run into bedrock, it'll be an additional $2,000 per boring. So it could potentially be worst case scenario, a little bit under $30,000. But this will be absorbed by the project.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Item J is a resolution authorizing acquisition of land through the use of eminent domain.
So this item has come before you guys before. You did authorize Allers and Cooney to assist us with this process. This is just giving them the authorization to submit the formal application.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Zach, what's your update?
Yeah, so as you guys are aware by now, the DJD development deal fell through on the 8 lots out there in Fair Meadow Drive. One of the issues we ran into was tax abatement. We needed to get that. They weren't paying the taxes on it, went to tax sale. So I worked with Jerry and his and the board supervisors to get the county agree to abate the outstanding taxes that were on those properties. So we're obviously really thankful for that. And then on the flip side now, Ridge Development has submitted all the paperwork. We've filed everything last week and they are set to break ground. They tell us in the next couple of weeks on those 4 lots out there. I'm not sure if they're doing one at a time or what they're doing, but we've been in contact with their lender and everything is on the up and up to get going on that, so. And then last, we're always working on nuisances all the time, so got 2 trials next week on them, so. Just ask that the public starts, I don't know, off their property, so I don't have to spend all my time at the courthouse. So, be appreciative.
Isn't that what you do?
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank you, Zach. Closed session, meet in closed session to discuss the purchase of sale of particular real estate, only where premature disclosure for that could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price governmental body would receive for that property as provided by chapter 21.5J the Code of Iowa. Meet in closed session to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation where litigation is imminent, where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation as provided by chapter 21.5C of the Code of Iowa.
Move to go into closed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.